starting off, I know I chatted to you sort of in the middle of lockdown, and things were dire at that stage. And I think after the recent alcohol, the reinstated alcohol ban and the curfew have just kind of taken that to a new level. So what was your first thought when you heard about the ban? Because I think it was a surprise to everyone.
Yeah, it was a real, it was a shock. And I think the curfew just made it even more difficult. Both of them, in my mind, are really ridiculous. Listen, we take this COVID thing very serious and understand, how drastic it is. But my fear is the damage that's been done with this alcohol ban and restrictions on when we can trade. I think long-term damage is going to be unrepairable. You can see what's happening to our industry already. I mean, I'm speaking from my part. If you look at Bree Street, it used to be, known as probably the food street of Cape Town. Like now there's 5 or 6 places on the brink of closing down. It's going to be a ghost town by the end of this. And my big fear is for our staff. And just looking at social media and how many restaurants are closing down on a daily basis, and looking at this jobs save lives and how many jobs are at risk at the moment, it's incredibly scary. And just from my experience, we've got staff who are still in employment, but their brothers and their sisters or their mom or their dad have lost their job. So now the salary they were earning, and now they're only getting part of their salary, now that's having to support their parents and their siblings, or they have to contribute some of it to their parents or their siblings. Some of them can't afford their rent anymore, so they're moving back home. It's having a traumatic effect on everybody. It really is. Not to mention the whole mental health aspect of it. I mean, I can see it just in our staff, the difference in their moods. There's certain staff I know are really struggling, trying to come to terms with what's going on. And like I say, we take this thing completely COVID. To me, yeah, it's scary, but we really need to reopen our restaurants. We will put all the protocols that we've been asked to do into space. We're already spending money on that. I think the type of guests that come to our restaurants are very responsible people. They have a choice of whether they want to dine with us or they don't, so it's completely up to them. Most of our guests will arrive in an Uber and leave in an Uber, so they're not drinking and then getting into a car and driving home. And most of them will have a bottle of wine over a 3 or 4 hour period. So it's not like there's binge drinking going on. It's not a bar environment. It's not a club environment. It's a very controlled environment. And we need to open our doors again. We need to be able to trade. We need to be able to sell alcohol in order to survive, in order to keep these jobs, and in order to pay salaries. It's that simple. And it's not just the restaurant industry. I mean, it's a whole knock-on effect. If you look at our suppliers, our suppliers are in dire straits as well. Just one example is we work with a fish company called Abelobi, which is a community, fishing community. They're not able to supply any of the restaurants with fish at the moment, or very few restaurants. They're struggling. The guys who deliver fruit and vegetable, he has 51 staff. He's struggling. I spoke to a ceramicist the other day. He's had 9 million rands worth of cancellations of product since lockdown. Another friend of mine owns a catering company. She had 3 events that got cancelled. That cost 5 million rand she lost in revenue. Us, with just in refunds with Dime Plan on deposits we had for our restaurants. In the first month of lockdown, we returned over 1 million rand in deposits. It's, I just don't know how long we can carry on like this before I have to stop and look at it and think, how are we going to survive? It's got to this stage now where we're looking at it going, is it worth our while continue? I'm not going to give up. Not going to give up, but I've just, we've resorted now that we borrowed money from the bank to keep 2 of the restaurants alive. It's just, I can't keep doing that. Otherwise, it's just complete craziness.
And tell me, I know that you've been involved in the legal action that Theo Nell is taking against the government,
Yes.
where he's campaigning on behalf of the restaurant industry in the Western Cape to allow alcohol to be enjoyed in a licensed restaurant, and removal of the 1.5 meter distancing regulation. So tell us, how is that going, that case? Is it kind of moving forward in any way?
You know, again, he's pretty much, if you read the papers he's put together, it's basically saying what I've just said. It's about saving jobs. The 1.5 meter thing, we're very happy to do that between tables. I mean, if I go for dinner with my wife, or if I go for dinner with people I'm living in the same household, it doesn't make sense to divide us by 1.5 meters. I think that's where Theo's coming from on that side of it. Like I say, we'll follow all the protocols. You know, we'll take people's temperatures. We'll make sure we'll have as many people as we're allowed in a particular space. We'll follow the safe distance. And we've already spent money expanding our kitchens at both Constantia, as an example. We've made those kitchens bigger so the chefs have space to work 1.5 meters apart from each other at a huge expense to us, you know. Supplying all our staff with masks, the sanitation things, you know, the temperature control units. It's all to a huge expense to us. I mean, we'll do everything within our capabilities, but we need to lift the curfew. We need to be able to trade after 9 o'clock in the evening, and we need to be able to sell alcohol.
So that brings me to the Job Saves Lives movement that you've started. I mean, when did it start? Literally less than a week ago or a week ago, and it's gained so much momentum and attention. And, you know, I think it's amazing to see how the rest of the industry has kind of jumped on board. And I think it's kind of now culminated in the protest that's happening tomorrow on Wednesday, the million seats on the streets. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that came around, how that came to be?
Well, after watching the president's speech last Sunday week, I spoke to all the chefs in our restaurants, in the 5 restaurants, and I asked them to take a photograph of themselves standing outside our restaurants and just with the number of staff that we employed. And then Dave Schneider came up with the hashtag Job Saves Lives, and that's where it started. We put them up on Facebook on the Monday morning, and then later that morning I saw someone else had done one, and somebody else, and it grew and grew. We've had support from Australia, from Hong Kong, from Indonesia, from Scotland, from Ireland, from the UK, all over. It's really, really grown into something massive. And then Wendy Alberts from the Restaurant Association put together the million seats. So we sort of combined the two together. And the protest, like you say, takes place tomorrow from 12 to 2.
Okay.
And it's going to be a peaceful protest. We've asked all our staff to join in. We've asked all of our suppliers to join in. But I'm getting messages like you can't believe from customers, from our guests, from friends who just want to come and support us. So it's incredible. I mean, there are a lot of people out there who want to go back to restaurants, but they want the full experience. And that's alcohol, and that's been able to eat past 9 o'clock in the evening. But the support has been unbelievable. It's been incredible. But it's also been an eye-opener to see how many jobs have been lost so far and how many are at risk. And every single one of those jobs, believe me, is at risk. There's no restaurant can sustain this into another month. You can see it day by day. There's restaurants closing down.
And I mean, obviously this protest is to highlight all these issues, but what do you think will happen if the government don't kind of address it?
If they don't address it, you're just going to see more and more businesses go against the wall. I've just seen something, I don't know how true it is, but apparently they're extending the tourist fund till August the 15th. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but it's floating around on Facebook at the moment. So hopefully that is true. But again, people can't survive on that amount of money. We made claims for June I think it was 5 of our staff members got paid for 1 day for June, which was a total of 115 rand each. It could be a glitch in the system, I'm not sure, but can you imagine if that's what you receive from that fund? 115 rand. I don't know, 115 rand doesn't go very far at all. So the government have to do something. They've got to stand up and support not just our industry, everybody. It's every single industry is struggling here. It's not just the restaurants. It's hospitality. I work with Singita. Singita have got 1,700 staff, 13 game lodges. They haven't had a guest for 4.5 months. And they don't know when the borders are going to open. They don't know when they're going to be reopening their doors again. I mean, and that affects a whole load of different topics like conservation and just, it's a completely different topic. All we're asking for is the government to give us a little bit of help, to give us an opportunity to save our industry, to save jobs, and to allow us to pay our staff so they can put food on their table for their families. I mean, it's getting desperate. It's getting really, really desperate.
It is just as simple as that, and everybody deserves the right to food. So,
yes,
Liam, I hope that the government hears you and hears us and everybody that's supporting this movement. And I think, I just want to say to you, thank you and all the best for tomorrow. And I hope that something positive comes out of it.
No, thank you. And thank you guys for all the coverage. I mean, you guys are brilliant.